Finally, we
Good
meet.
to see you again.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, very nice. Hey, good evening, everyone. So I'll give another 2 more minutes before we start. We'll wait for others to join. I think few have joined, and I'll also give another 2 minutes for others to join, and then we can get started. It's been a great evening. I think a lot of people have registered. We had a lot more than 35 people who registered. I hope at least a 50% turn up today. There have been a lot of questions also from the participants asking me to discuss certain topics. Let's see if we have time to discuss that as well. People are joining in, maybe a minute more. Let me get started, and then people can join, and as they come in, we will be able to, they'll be able to catch up with us. And let's take this moment to, kind of get started. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in today. Good evening, everyone. And my name is Ramya. I'm one of the co-founders of Datalligence. And we have this webinar today specifically to, kind of understand how to maximize the performance, how to implement OKRs in your own companies, wherever you're working on. So that was the agenda. We wanted to ensure that the OKR concept or the framework has been kind of well explained in the webinar, and also we can discuss about it post the session if need be, or if you have any clarifications as well. So let me get started. Today we would be talking more about OKR as a framework and what are the approaches of OKR implementation and how do we drive performance, or how do you do the reviews based on the OKRs that you've set for the year. And post this session, obviously, you'll be getting a toolkit which you can actually get started with, a template or a guide that can help you to get started right away. And thank you very much. And once again, welcome you all to our session today. People are joining in, but let me go ahead and continue the session. So let me take a moment to introduce ourselves to you. We call ourselves Datalligence. The story behind the name is a wonderful story, which I loved every time. I love every time when I'm talking about it to others. We call ourselves Datalligence the reason being we wanted to really have a data-driven approach to the entire goal setting and the performance management process. So that's why we wanted to bring that intelligence. So we call ourselves Datalligence, and A is something that we have a dream and also have in the product that we have implemented. So how do we differentiate ourselves from others is that we are simplified and an intuitive platform where you can effortlessly track OKRs, KPIs, and also performance reviews. So that's about us. And we also track your OKRs, as I already said, KPIs and performance management. And we also do coaching and consulting for organizations who are looking forward to implement OKRs with a guided implementation support. We travel with the organization to along with them, say somewhere between 3 to 6 months, where they get the implementation right, and then we exit the system. And we work with organization and teams, more than 1,000+ team as on date in implementing OKRs. That's about who we are. And we also have a community. If at all you wanted to really understand more about OKRs and want to discuss about it, along with the CEOs and the strategies who are already part of that community, you can join our community. We'll also share the link with you. The community is more about the paid forward. We discuss and share a lot of inputs about how effectively goals can be set. So we'll share the invite for the community. You can join if at all you're looking to have a community for OKRs. And let me get started with goal setting as a process. I think that's the agenda for today. Understanding OKRs, understanding the goal setting as a process, and how do we implement that. And I always start with this quote, which is a favorite quote of mine also. Rowing harder doesn't help, as long as you're headed in the right direction. So the entire goal setting process actually helps you to, drive on the right direction, and also at the same time, help you to go in the direction that you've already planned, and the resources are being planned likewise. So having said that, let me move on. So what are OKRs? I mean, to get to the story, to understand exactly what OKRs are, it's a very, very simple and lightweight management tool, which helps organizations to align in the same direction. So there are two different types of diverse teams. There are a lot of teams involved, or probably the geographical differences are there to make a team as one, and make them follow a common direction, or a goal that actually everyone wants to chase. That's what OKR facilitates for you. It helps every team to actually go in the same direction and chase the same goal as the organization planned. And with that, let me also give you a very simple, analogy of how OKRs can be understood. Let's assume that we have planning something to do this weekend. Maybe you want to go for a couple of days, Saturday or Sunday, or Sunday or Monday or Friday or Saturday, somewhere you're planning to go in the weekend. And that's what I have planned to do. And I've also decided that I'm going to be there at 10 a.m. Right. So I know where I want to go, and I really need to know. I also know that I need to reach there by 10 a.m. And I've decided also to go by my car. I really want to drive down by my car. So having understood that, this is what I'm trying to achieve this particular weekend, right? I'm going to actually ensure that I'm going to drive down to my location, wherever the destination that I planned by car this weekend. This is typically what your objective is all about, what you're trying to achieve. So this weekend, what I'm trying to achieve is that I'm planning a weekend trip, probably anywhere that is actually a 3 hour drive, so that I can actually reach there by Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Having understood what my OKRs are, or what my objective is, I need to now plan how am I going to reach there, right? I've decided I need to go. Then comes your how am I going to reach there? So let me assume that I've made a plan of starting at 7 a.m. I don't know, filling a petrol tank, a fuel tank of 20 liters at least, and also drive on an average speed of 60 kilometers. Now I have woken up early, filled my petrol, and also driving in the average speed. That is the plan, that what we call it as key results. These are the how am I going to reach. As simply as that, what you're trying to do is your objective, how you're trying to do is your key result. As simply as that, this is what OKRs for you. And once that is decided, once we know about OKRs, it's not and everyone knows about it, how OKRs have actually evolved during the last few years. And it's not a new framework that everyone trying to, implement or trying to create a story around it, success story around it. But it's a proven use case, right? I mean, people have implemented OKRs and have actually been successful. The brands that we love, the brands we follow are already using OKRs, and they have implemented it. So without any doubt, and it's definitely a proven use case that you can refer to at any given point of time. So, in an organization, if you decide to implement OKRs, right? I mean, that's when you actually you will have questions, right? When would be the right time to implement OKRs? That would be the first question that comes to you. I understand that most of the participants are from HR fraternity, and that's how you kind of where do I start it? Where do I get started with implementing OKRs? So that's what these are the questions that we ask the leaders to ask themselves when they really wanted to drive an aspirational goal, which is organizational wide, and also at the same time track the strategic goals, right? These are something that are of top priority. And at the same time, align the people goal with the organizational goal and enable data driven decision making as well. So these are the areas that you probably might want to think of implementing OKRs. And by implementing this, probably whenever you feel there should be a consistent performance, right? I mean, quarter by quarter. And at the same time, your performance management should also be continuous instead of an annual one. So that's when you need to think about OKR. So that's where the answer comes as OKR. And it has a proven use case of ensuring that if you implement OKRs, the study says, and our own data says that people have achieved goals 10% more than what they did last year. And their priorities have also been achieved higher. And also at the same time, if you're talking about a project environment, the project gets completed much earlier, or the resource utilization becomes much better. This is when you need to look at implementing OKRs. So having said that, how do you really connect that? How do you connect that entire OKR structure to your organization? It starts with a vision and mission statement and then goes to your goal. The goal is typically your annual plan, but typically, probably you might be having a four pillar approach, or probably you might have a goal set in the year beginning that you can take it as a goal. And then your OKRs comes below that, where it's an execution tool that will help you to achieve your goals, objectives, and key results, and also the initiatives and milestones. This helps you to kind of map the entire activities done by every single individual or the teams to understand how it actually correlates to your vision or mission statement, which we have set for the organization. So that's how OKR, kind of connects the entire organization together and delivers the goal that we plan. So how do you relate that to the entire organizational objective which has been set? We have two sets of OKRs, one the corporate level and the organizational level. We call it strategic OKRs, right? I mean, everyone starts looking for it and then start creating their own OKRs deriving from the strategic objective. Those are called tactical OKRs, which team actually delivers end of the day. As we go down, we'll see more tactical OKRs from the team level. And if you see the leadership level, we'll have most of strategic level OKRs. This is how the entire OKR structure relates to the organizational goal. So the alignment, what we are talking about is this. You start with a goal statement and you have a company level objective, and then you go to a team objective, and then comes your individual objective. This in a way kind of orchestrates the entire goal pillars or goal statement that you have. The progress also rolls up to the top line goal. So any individual or a team which is not delivering, the gap is obvious, and you will know exactly how to support in terms of bridging that gap. It is not a retrospect where you kind of go to the quarter and then review and say that, hey, I've not done this. It actually gives you a real time insight so that I know at any given point of time, with the effort and with the resource what we have, probably we may not reach where we are supposed to reach. So this gives an early warning signal saying that, hey, this is how we should be planning. This is about the entire creation of OKR from the goals till the last level of team member and gets kind of cascaded down. I'll stop here, owing to any questions if you have from the audience, probably I'll take it and then I'll move on to my approaches to OKR implementation. Any questions? Okay, you may drop your questions in the chat. So whenever I get to see that, I'll be able to take that question on. So I'm moving on to the approaches. Say for example that when do you need an OKR framework? This question probably your leadership team would ask you as soon as you talk to them, about implementing OKRs. When there is a consistent performance which is happening year on year, probably when you have a accelerated performance, or when you wanted to grow 10x or a 5x, that's when you need to give a special focus to the entire implementation plan. That's when you will kind of introduce OKR as a framework there. I have a question. How do you balance short-term and long-term objectives with goal? Probably I'll come to it while finishing this particular approaches. Probably that help you to understand also. We'll touch upon that then. So while writing OKRs, we wanted to actually ensure that the objective are very inspiring, and it has to start with a verb and keep it in a very positive tone. And we also help you ask you to use a formula to write objective statement, which is starting with a verb. What do you want to do? and in order to achieve what? Say accomplish $10 million in order to become a market leader, or in order to launch this particular product line or something like that. So this particular formula would give you to write a very great set of OKRs, which will be inspiring anyone in the organization, right from the top line to the top level to the junior team member, should be able to resonate to the objective that we have written, so that it gives a lot of clarity or a lot of connection between what is the organization requirement and what I'm actually delivering. Having said that, the objectives actually, we ask team, we always advise you to have less number of objectives. Less is more is something that we practice, and also we ask the organizations also practice. 3 to 5 is the minimum number of objective. The reason being, if you have more things in your plate, you'll be overwhelming for you. You'll not be able to deliver what you're supposed to deliver. So you have only the top three or the top five that actually matters to your work, that connects to your organizational outcomes, so that you can focus on that particular objective alone. And you should also have a time bound objective. It should say that I need to complete by Q1, or in the month of October or a December, whatever it is. It should have a timeline connected to it, and should be specific. You can't write vague objectives. As I already said, it connects your top line objective. The leader should be able to connect to the last level of team member of his own department or team, or his vertical. So that's the reason we keep ask them to be very specific and keep it very ambitious. At the same time, keep create an alignment to all the objective. If the objectives are in silos, it's an island is what we call it as, and it doesn't connect or network or kind of cross pollinate with each other, then everything becomes silos, and all the efforts will not be able to kind of translate to your goal statement. Where will sometimes you will also be doing something repetitive, or something kind of the redundant activities. Two people will be doing the same thing. Those things will surface out only if you create an alignment to it. And next is the key result. How do you keep your key results? We follow a very simple concept, or the rule of that this rule of 100 is what we say. So where we ask team members to write their OKRs, which are in an input. There are three types of key results, that to simply put. One is an input key result. Input is nothing but what we actually do, actions. Say, for example, I'm conducting 10 webinars a month. So that becomes my input. If I'm making 10 calls a day, then that becomes an input. I can control this. I can either do 5 webinars, or I can do 20 calls, or 5 calls a day. That's what we call it as input. Whereas when you're talking about an output, is an output of what I've actually made an action. So out of 10 webinars, I've actually, what is my output? How much I have actually delivered, out of which where I have planned 100% and delivered it. Second, probably the number of warm leads that I've generated through my calls that I've made. These you can call it as output. But whereas when you talk about outcome, what is the outcome or the impact that I've made by making the webinar live? If I'm running a webinar, what is my impact that I'm creating? Say if I'm making calls, what is the impact that I'm creating? Probably you can talk about revenue generated through the calls that I've made. This is by and large how do you create objectives, and you have some thumb rules of creating an objective. When you create key result, you just think about, just have it in mind, the 100 rule of 100, that will help you to kind of create it. And then comes the a basic, kind of summary of key results. Again, less is more. Keep it very short, and then 3 to 5 is advisable. Again, time bound. Should be mostly quantitative. Qualitative key results are like your initiatives and milestones are also available, which you can still use. Go ahead and use it. And if possible, you can prioritize your key results and track the progress continuously. If you set it and forget it, then probably there is no point in kind of creating that. That's just like a retrospect that you're doing. You're not actually adding any value to the entire process. So that's about the kind of implementation. Just kind of an intro to the OKR and how do we go about it. So I'll again stop here. I'll answer this question that I have. Any other question, please feel free to share it with me. So the balance between the short term and the long term objectives, right? The long term objectives are typically your organizational level objective. While you break it down, you are supposed to kind of break it down on a quarterly level. The reason being is that when you break it down to a quarter, my annual goal to a quarter, then it becomes easy for me to know what I'm supposed to do in that particular Q1 or Q2. If having done that, would I actually achieve that annual objective? So long term definitely becomes a leading, indicator for me, kind of an indication for me to create my short term OKR. So having a balance between both is definitely essential. Only if I know what are my long term objective, I would be able to create my short term key results. So, yes, I mean, one more question I would take. Probably I'll move on, approach, discuss the approaches and take the another question. So we talk about five different approaches while implementing OKRs. The first one is that we have a pilot approach, and then we have a top-down approach, and then we have our hybrid rollout, and then phased rollout, and also org-wide rollout. So these are the five different approaches that we can take in an organization. When you're doing in the org-wide rollout is something that I'm in least favor of, but still it works for organizations who have that kind of bandwidth, who have the kind of resources in place. But to start with, the pilot approach is nothing but it helps you to establish, who are the focus groups that we are working on. You can set a very clear goal for that particular group and then say that, hey, this Q1, this particular department is going to achieve this. And that can be a pilot project for this particular implementation process. And then comes your, executing it. You can execute it in a very quicker time. And also you'll be able to collect feedback accordingly. The group is small, you have a great focus, and you also immediately take feedback so that you can course correct it, and also at the same time sharing that particular lessons learned, right? That's very important as you grow. I have seen organizations who are really large. They actually start with a pilot and then kind of do an org-wide rollout also. So that's about the pilot approach. And then comes your top-down rollout. Top-down rollout is nothing but cascading. The leadership commitment is totally defined. And then they involve all the team members gradually from there. And then cascaded top down. The goals are set on the top and then, kind of rolled it down. And then the adjustments are made, kind of tailored to what they need. And then they all lead by an example because the leadership owns it. And, that kind of leadership owns, and then they travel it drive it from there. That's what we call it as lead by example. And then lead by example. And then we have hybrid rollout. Hybrid rollout is nothing but it's a balanced perspective. This I really like this particular approach a lot. To give an example for this particular hybrid approach, I'll also explain how it works first. So the hybrid approach works in such a way that there is a combination of two type of alignments here. We call it as top down and bottom up. Top down is nothing but the leaders create their goals, their objectives, and then that they declare that. I've seen, for example, a startup who's actually creating the organizational wide objective and then declaring it on a town hall meeting, right? So we are all declaring, saying that I'm going to achieve X this particular quarter, or A, B, C. These are something that I'm chasing. Then the team comes up with their own OKRs. and then links it to the organizational level objectives. So this is a top down where the leadership commitment is also there. They have declared what they want to do, and team themselves go and connect their OKRs to the top level objective, which is what we call it as bottom up. That both a hybrid approach together makes it really a great synergy. And especially when you're doing a bottom up approach, there's a lot of engagements. People are very engaged because they are committing to the OKRs, and they're very interesting. Interestingly, they engage much higher compared to the other methods, and also lead to a more natural alignment. People collaborate during the OKR planning. You get a lot of brainstorming. You get a lot of understanding, and it becomes a natural process. And you can also do an ongoing adjustment. The beauty of the entire implementation is that you can continuously adjust as you go on. And then the second one, fourth one is the phased rollout. When I talk about the phased rollout, it is a very methodical approach, department by department. Say, to answer your question, Rosina, that if, say, for example, I have an OKR which is on an org level, it's just been set. And then, say, for example, I'm actually deploying, I'm venturing to a new market, say, Middle East is a new market that I'm venturing. So there are two teams, departments involved in getting things done. Probably one would be the product development department who creates a product for the market and makes it ready. And then comes your marketing team to ensure that the market is actually available for us to kind of receive the product. So both of them together synergize together and then work on that particular OKR, which goes on a department level approach. So a product department and the marketing departments together ensure that the product is being rolled out in Middle East. So that's how we do step by step approach. One of you department, as I said, two in the example, and it also takes a very lesser time frame to get the success story out. The proof of concept is there out there in just few months, so you can say the implementation becomes very, very faster if the proof of concept is successful for you. And then as I the time is again is restricted, right? I can say that in Q1 I can make this POC up and running. You can easily kind of get things done. That's what we call it as phased rollout. And then finally, we have an arc-wide rollout. Arc-wide rollout is nothing but simultaneously implementing to entire organization across. You go do a bang on implementation. So it's like everyone are getting started with OKR. This typically happens in an organization like what we do in a performance appraisal, right? I mean, we have a calendar year that we follow. End of the year, you do an appraisal, cycle rollout, and then the next year beginning, you have a goal setting process. Like that, the org-wide rollout happens, and everyone starts using it in the same month. Say in January is where I'm starting. Everyone starts in January, and it takes less time because everyone are spreading towards the same time, and training also happens at the same time. Implementation takes place in the same time. And as I said, it commences on a particular start of a year. I set a goal in initial financial year, and then we can connect it. And then these are the 5 different approaches that we have while implementing OKR. And I have an interesting question from Rise. The question is about, how is compared to be a balanced scorecard framework. So balanced scorecard and OKRs actually work hand in hand. They really work very well. When you're talking about your 4 pillars of balanced scorecard is it helps you to kind of create your strategic pillars, and then tells this is how the organization's focus should be. OKRs helps you in executing that. If you compare, they actually, for me, I love making them work together because I know BSE has given me my 4 pillars and tells me exactly what are my focuses for the 4 pillars. And this OKR tells me exactly what how am I going to execute those 4 pillars. The advantage about OKRs to balance scorecard is that it is very, very short term, and it's also cross functional in nature. And it doesn't really work only with the metric. It also works with more initiatives. It also measures your milestones and things like that. The advantage is greater if you combine two together. Yes, but both can also operate separately. But OKRs can actually be more flexible than balance scorecard, because you can't touch the framework in the middle of the year and redo it. So that's something.
Ramya, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to understand or to clarify, so it would be like OKRs when we are doing a balanced scorecard approach in an organization, it would be more of OKRs would be something similar to KPIs.
Actually, KPIs are more smart, right? It has a
Yes.
time and thing driven, whereas OKRs are much ahead of that, because it also can measure both your initiatives and milestones also, right?
Okay.
Say to achieve to execute something, it's not always a metric, which is KPI. It also
Uh,
goes beyond that. So it can be one step ahead, where you also have an aspiration. You write what you want to do, and key results typically act as your KPI.
okay.
Also has the same smart characteristics. In a nutshell, actually, you've heard about MBO as a methodology, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
MBO with key results, I mean KPIs together. MBOs and KPIs together makes your OKR. It is called as IMBO when Intel used it earlier. So it
Okay.
has both the characteristics of your MBO and also your characteristics of KPI. So it will be one step ahead of your KPI methodology. But KPI has to be used for business as usual. OKRs has to be used for aspirational goal setting. So when you use both together, it really works well. Hope that answers your question.
Okay. Understood. Got it. Thanks.
Cool. We've already touched upon a bit on the alignment. Very, very important is that everyone aligns rightly to the organizational level objective. This is what I was talking earlier about top-down approach, where the company leadership commits on OKRs, and then it gets cascaded to the entire team and the department and the team level. This is what we call it as top-down. And then we have a bottom-up approach, where you have the commitment is already made by the objective from the organization, and team themselves go ahead and declare that what they are doing. This create autonomy, and employee engagement is pretty high when we measure bottom up post implementation. Your employee engagement scores are pretty high, and at the same time, we've also seen lesser attrition post implementation because of the engagement level also. These are the facts which I'm kind of quoting from our existing experience. So that's a bottom up approach for you. And the reviews are very, very important when it comes to OKR. I'll see if I have one more question which I missed it out. How can OKRs be aligned with an organization's overall strategy and vision? I think I just answered that question. It has to be connected to the overall strategy and mission. Otherwise, it will be more siloed, and we call it as island OKRs. So people will not be able to cross pollinate or cross network with each other. It has to be aligned with the organizational overall organizational strategy also, and especially the vision and mission statement connects. Some people also connect their culture along with their goals, right? So it can also be done that way. So that's Caesar. Thanks, Caesar. I mean, all the questions been interesting. Thank you very much. So the last but not the least, let me touch a bit on reviews. And as HR leaders, I think most of you frequently come across these things, right? Why are you adding one more thing to my plate? I mean, I'm already busy. We have too many things to do. Is this another thing that I'll have to do? Looks like an additional responsibility to them. That is something that you would come across while implementing OKRs. But it is a cultural transformation that goes into leaders. Leaders has to have a buy-in for that. And at the same time, on a realistic way, you have a very less time. You will spend very less time in doing the review of the process. The entire OKR can be reviewed in a very quick way. That's a very reason we ask you to do a fortnightly review. spend only 5 minutes every fortnight so that you can actually discuss what has been going through. And then later spend 10 minutes every month where you can review the entire OKR progress and check how it's going on. And then if it's progressing fine, then perfect. It is, you can move on and then say you can actually start celebrating. If it is not progressing fine, then you need to actually replace some OKRs or redefine some OKRs. And then if it is critical OKR, then you take support. This 10 minutes will help you to decide two things: whether am I on right track or do I need resources to complete this. And then you can, once we know the critical support is required, not required, then you can adjust the OKR. That will help you to do the make the needle progress. And then if it is not relevant, I have written some OKR, but I don't really think it's relevant anymore. Then in that case, you can actually kind of hold that OKR, not kind of process with that. That's something that you can take a call. And OKR retrospectives are very important because that's where you learn the lessons learned can happen. Kind of understand what is going through and what are all the kind of success stories that you had. Should we really revisit the way that we have done the entire process or something like this? It's more a postmortem. It's more what we do it at the end of the quarter, that will give you to only to course correct what the mistakes that we have made. But it is essential that you do the 5 minute and a 10 minute review so you know you stay on track. So that's about reviews. I know we covered what OKRs are, and we covered about the approaches of implementing OKRs and how do we go about aligning the OKRs. What is a top down and what is a bottom up? And then we looked at how do we review the entire process. You can either have a quarterly OKR, you can have a half-yearly OKR, but the shorter the better, because you can actually react on it, reflect on it, so that you can do any actions on it. We always advise a quarterly OKRs, having a key results as half-yearly. This is typically what reviews are meant for. The entire success of the implementation depends on how do we review this. If you set it and forget it, then the entire process is gone for a toss. It is going to be another appraisal system where you kind of fill the form in the end of the year, do your self-review, manager does a review. It will not be continuous anymore, and it will not add value to the organization vision as well. So it's very important that you kind of keep it and goal setting exercise where you can ask the team to declare the goals every quarter and then start working against that. So that's about it for me, and I would be sharing the link with you in terms of I will also be sharing you the toolkit, which will have the template to get started right away. I will also be sharing you a guide which you can use it to implement OKRs. You can always reach out to us. In the email I'll share my LinkedIn handle as well. We can connect and discuss about OKRs if you have any questions in future. So I'll open the floor. If you have any questions apart from we've been asked, probably I'll be happy to take it on. Else, I think we can definitely catch up post that. Any questions? It's always been interesting. Whenever we do a webinar session, I end up, talking to people who attended the session, post that. Someone is talking?
Hi, I just had a question. My name is Nisha. So I have those 5 approaches that you were talking about. They all look very, similar to me as a person who is looking at OKRs in a very recent light. So if you take the example of launching your company or a product in the new market, with the help of that example, how would each implementation style look different? I mean, do we have the time to do this? I don't know. You can take it over email also if time doesn't allow you to answer this question.
See, every approach is, as you rightly pointed out, Nisha, the approach will look similar because we are only breaking down how we are implementing it. We are going to implement it nevertheless. So, if you're talking about an org-wide rollout, the example which the product line example is not the example that we should be talking about.
Okay.
Org-wide roll-up will have a different set of approach where you have a goal setting exercise done from the leadership level, and then every department comes up and then does an OKR planning session and kind of commits to the OKR. When you're talking about a pilot run, when you're doing a pilot or a phased approach, that's where your hybrid approach can also fall in together. Right? I mean, they can mix together. If I'm doing a product launch where I'm actually focusing only on a pilot group that is going to help me launch that product, there I can also add my hybrid approach to it, right? I can do a top down and also bottom up hybrid approach. And then together I can implement that particular product line. Both will help me to understand the feedbacks much quicker. And as I said, the POCs are also done much earlier. So we know we would actually have a hang of how do we implement this successfully. And then you can do an org-wide rollout is what my experience all about by
So
implementing.
what essentially you're saying is that we don't have to stick to a particular approach wherein the emphasis is more on implementing, and whatever that implementation requires, like after a point, definitely top down and bottom up will have to merge somewhere, and a hybrid approach. That is what is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, any which ways, you will have to decide whether it's a top down or a hybrid. Those two approaches will go along with your pilot also, phased approach also, and also org-wide also.
Okay.
So that is how it kind of merges together. So, and we do have examples. I think we don't have much more examples to share, but definitely I will share it across to an email. I
Thank you.
kept
That'll be great.
I kept the weekend trip example, Rosina, to the reason to keep it very simple. I know kind of people will understand what you're trying to do and how you're trying to achieve it. Maybe I can give you one sales example, before I close. Sales example is something everyone would understand. Say, for example, that you need to become a market leader in, North America. So that's been your aspirational objective that you've set for the company. Then if you need to be as a leader in that particular region, then you need to actually there'll be three key results, which one would be for marketing, one would be for the sales, and one for the product line, where sales will be talking about their number of leads that they would be kind of bringing in to have that leadership happen. And marketing team would actually talk about more how they are going to create that brand presence. And then the product team will also give the features that will help us to penetrate to that market. And those key results can also be an objective to that particular team when we go down, and then take it from there, and then start implementing. So this is typically how the entire structure will start with, and then it will break down the key results of the company level, will get broken down to the individual department objective, and then it gets rolled out from there, or kind of gets signed off from there. So I hope that is clear and that is relevant to what you asked. So with that, I think I will sign off. So from this particular session, I really enjoyed. I loved the questions that came across. I'll connect with you personally in an email, and then we can, if you have any questions, do write to me. And then I'll share the invite to our community also, where we discuss a lot about OKR. Our community members talks about their experience in implementing OKRs as well. It's been lovely having you all today. I mean, I did this session specific to India and Dubai so that I can talk to people specific to this region. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Let's stay connected, and thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone.